Welcome to Karma Canvas, the fall of the Invincible, how ego destroys the undefeated. In the ancient wisdom tradition of Yoga Vasistha, the great sage Vasistha sits with Prince Rama on the banks of the sacred Sarayu River. The evening light casts long shadows across the holy water as the sage prepares to unveil one of the most profound secrets of human existence, the nature of bondage and freedom. For all who seek liberation, the answer lies not in conquering external enemies, but in understanding the hidden enemy within, the ego sense that transforms even the invincible into the defeated. Prince Rama listens with deep concentration as Vasistha begins his discourse. The prince understands that the sage is not merely telling a story for entertainment, but transmitting a teaching that holds the key to liberation itself. All around them, the eternal dance of consciousness unfolds, invisible, ever-present, waiting to be recognized by those with eyes to see and ears to hear.
O Rama, listen well to this teaching. In the great empire known as Dreadful Hell, evil actions roam like mighty elephants in rut, and the senses which drive these actions are equipped with a formidable magazine of cravings. These senses are so difficult to conquer that they even destroy their own abode and support, the very body that sustains them. However, one who is equipped with wisdom can restrain these cravings without injuring the being, just as a noose restrains the elephant without harming its essential nature.
Holy sage, I understand that the senses are our greatest challenge. But you speak of demons and battles in the netherworld. Surely this is more than mere allegory. What is this story you are about to reveal, and what wisdom does it contain for one such as myself, a prince in this mortal world?
The story I am about to tell you is both literal and metaphorical, Rama. In the netherworld, there lived a mighty demon named Sambara, a master of illusion and magic. He created entire cities from thin air, cities with 100 suns on the horizon, beings made of gold that walked and talked, swans carved from precious stones, and fire that burned with ice-cold flames. So powerful was his magic that he became a terror to the very gods of heaven themselves, and even they trembled before him. But the gods discovered a weakness in Sambara's power. When he slept or journeyed away from his city, they seized the opportunity to attack his armies and weaken his forces. Enraged by these losses, Sambara invaded the heavens himself, wielding his terrible magic. The terrified gods scattered and hid, unable to confront him directly. Yet in their wisdom, they continued to strike at his forces whenever opportunity arose. To protect his armies, the demon Sambara created 3 new demons named Dama, Vyala, and Kata. But these were unlike any beings ever created before. They had no previous incarnations, no memories, no mental conditioning whatsoever. They knew no fear, no doubt, no predispositions. They did not flee before enemies, felt no dread of death, and understood not the meaning of victory or defeat. They were not independent beings at all, but rather robot-like projections of Sambara's own will, extensions of his consciousness operating with perfect efficiency.
Sambara dispatched his protected armies to engage the gods in battle, and the fighting that ensued was fierce and devastating. The demons fought without weapons at first, grappling with the gods in hand-to-hand combat. Then they unleashed all manner of terrible missiles and magical weapons, destroying cities, villages, caves, forests, and countless beings. The battle swung back and forth, with each side alternately tasting victory and suffering defeat. Yet Dama, Vyala, and Kata remained invincible, crushing all who opposed them, their emotionless forms a perfect instrument of destruction. The 3 principal demons searched everywhere for the chief gods, hoping to crush them decisively, but they could not be found anywhere. Frustrated in their search, they returned to report their failure to Sambara. In desperation, the gods prayed to Brahma, the creator of all worlds, begging him to reveal a way to defeat these 3 unstoppable demons. Brahma appeared before them in his divine form, resplendent with 4 faces containing all knowledge. O gods, the demon Sambara cannot be killed now, for his time has not yet come. In 100 years hence, Lord Vishnu himself will destroy him. For now, I counsel you to retreat from battle, appearing as though you have been defeated by the 3 demons. But know this, these 3 are invincible only because they possess no ego sense, no sense of I and mine. They are free from conditioning and tendencies. Yet if they were to engage in prolonged warfare, the ego sense will eventually arise within them. Once this happens, they will become subject to psychological conditioning and develop latent tendencies, making them vulnerable to defeat. Understand this deeply, gods. Those beings in whom the ego sense I and its counterpart mind do not exist are invincible. They know neither desire nor anger, neither fear nor attachment. But he who is bound by the ego sense and by mental conditioning, even if he is regarded as a great man of vast learning, can be defeated by a mere child. The notions of I and mine are the eager vessels that receive all sorrow and suffering. He who identifies the body with the self sinks into misery. He who understands the self as the omnipresent being overcomes all sorrow. He whose mind is conditioned experiences defeat, but in the absence of conditioning, even a mosquito becomes immortal. The conditioned mind suffers endlessly. When freed of conditioning, it experiences only delight. This conditioning and craving are the forces that weaken any person, no matter how powerful. Therefore, you need not fear these demons. Rather, do what you can to create in them the sense of I and mine. Since they are mere creations of Sambhara's magic, ignorant and unaware of their true nature, they will readily fall for this deception. Once the ego sense arises within them, you will be able to defeat them easily. Having imparted this supreme wisdom, Brahma vanished, leaving the gods with their renewed strategy. They rested in their celestial abodes, preparing for the next phase of battle with new understanding. When fighting resumed, it was fiercer than ever before, with terrible destruction spreading everywhere. Yet something extraordinary was happening in the consciousness of the three demons. As they fought on, a subtle transformation began to take root, the first stirrings of individual identity, the dangerous seed of I am, beginning to germinate in their minds.
And so the transformation began, Rama. Just as a mirror reflects an object held close to it, the continuous behavior of fighting and engaging in combat reflected back into the consciousness of the demons, generating in them the basic notion of I am. This identification with their actions, this seeming identification, was the crack through which ignorance poured into their perfect emptiness. Once this ego sense took root, there quickly followed the desire for prolongation of life in their bodies, acquisition of wealth, health, and pleasure. These desires began to greatly debilitate their invincible forms. Then confusion arose in their minds, which gave rise to the feelings of this is mine and this is my body. All these notions resulted in inefficiency and inability to perform their duties. They became greatly attached to eating and drinking. Objects that were previously transparent to them now gave them feelings of pleasure, robbing them of their freedom. And with the loss of freedom came loss of courage. Fear entered where invincibility had reigned. They became terribly worried at the thought, we shall die in this war. This fear, this one terrible notion, was their undoing.
The gods, watching carefully, saw the moment of weakness in their opponents. The three demons who once could not be touched by any weapon now hesitated, faltered, and finally, most shamefully, fled before the advancing divine forces. When the demon armies witnessed their invincible protectors fleeing in fear, their morale shattered completely. Thousands of demons fell. Sambhara, learning of the defeat, was consumed with fury. But Dama, Vyala, and Kata, terrified of his wrath and their own destruction, took refuge in the nethermost world beneath all worlds.
Holy sage, this is indeed a profound teaching. I see clearly how these demons, though invincible in their freedom from ego, became vulnerable the moment they began to identify with themselves. But tell me, if these demons were truly just magical illusions, creations without substance, how did they become real beings of suffering like us? And what became of them after they fled to the nethermost world?
Rama, you have asked the final essential question. Listen deeply. Just as the demons Dama, Vyala, and Kata were unreal, products of pure magic, so too are we and all the gods and all beings. All these notions of I and you are equally unreal. We are all like bubbles that arise in the ocean of consciousness, apparently real while they exist, but ultimately without separate existence. Yet, and this is the supreme teaching, in the infinite consciousness, there arises the appearance of reality because consciousness itself is real. When consciousness is awake, as it were, such notions arise. When it sleeps, they dissolve. Yet in truth, this consciousness knows neither waking nor sleeping. It is eternal, unchanging, pure awareness. As for Dama, Vyala, and Kata, after suffering in the deepest hells through many incarnations in subhuman species, they now live as simple fish in a lake in Kashmir. Yet this story itself, The very act of hearing it and remembering their original nature will one day bring them liberation, just as hearing this truth now brings you liberation, O Rama.
The teaching, the ego sense, the notion of I and mine, is the invisible force that binds even the invincible to suffering, while its absence makes one truly undefeated. Subscribe to Karma Canvas for daily wisdom from ancient spiritual traditions.